There is a term for what you have been experiencing, probably for years. And almost no one outside a very specific conversation in behavioral science has been using it until recently. The term is food noise. And the reason it matters, the reason it is worth the next several minutes, is not because having a name for something fixes it. It's because the name points directly at the mechanism, and the mechanism is the part no one explained. Here is what this video is going to do. It's going to give you a precise definition of what food noise actually is. Not the vague version, the real one. Then it's going to explain exactly why your brain generates it. Not diet culture as an answer. Not you have an unhealthy relationship with food as an answer. The actual neurological reason, the one that also explains why trying harder has never made it quieter. And then it's going to tell you what that means for the only direction that actually leads somewhere. Food noise is not hunger. That's the first and most important distinction. Hunger is a physical signal. It has a location, the stomach, the body. Food noise has no location. It lives in the mind. It is the near constant mental preoccupation with food that runs underneath everything else you are doing. It's thinking about what you ate this morning before your first meeting has started. It's mentally calculating dinner while you're still at lunch. It's the part of your brain that is always, quietly, doing math, or doing regret, or doing planning, even when you are supposed to be somewhere else entirely. It is not a craving, exactly. It is more like a hum, a frequency that is just always on. And the reason this distinction matters, hunger versus noise, is that what you do with hunger and what you do with noise are completely different things. Hunger has an answer. You eat, and it stops. Noise does not work that way. You eat, and the noise often keeps going, which is how you end up sitting in front of something that did not even taste that good, still thinking about food, and wondering what is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. What is happening has a mechanism, and that mechanism has nothing to do with willpower. The pattern makes sense. That's not a reassurance. It's a literal statement. What your brain is doing has a logic to it. And once you understand that logic, the experience does not disappear, but it stops feeling like evidence of something broken. To understand that logic, we need to go a layer deeper than most explanations are willing to go. Here is where most explanations stop too early. They say, food noise comes from restriction, and that's true, as far as it goes. But it doesn't go far enough to actually explain what you're experiencing. So here is the deeper layer. Your brain contains a system whose entire purpose is survival. Not happiness, not peace, survival. And that system is exquisitely sensitive to scarcity. Not just physical scarcity, perceived scarcity. The belief that food might be limited, or that certain food is not allowed, or that you should not have eaten what you just ate. That belief is enough to activate the system. When the survival system detects scarcity, it does exactly what it was built to do. It directs attention toward food. Persistently, involuntarily, insistently, not because you are weak. Because the system is doing its job. This is what research on cognitive preoccupation consistently shows. The more a person restricts food, or even believes they should restrict food, the more mental bandwidth gets allocated to thinking about it. Not less. More. The system interprets restriction as a threat signal, and a threat signal demands attention. This is not a character flaw. This is how every human nervous system responds to perceived scarcity. The difference is that some people are living inside that scarcity signal almost continuously. And here is the part that is genuinely important. You do not have to be formally dieting for this to happen. You do not have to be tracking or counting or following a plan. The scarcity signal can be running on rules you learned so long ago you don't think of them as rules anymore. I shouldn't eat that. I already had too much today. I'll start fresh tomorrow. Those sentences, even as quiet background thoughts, are enough to keep the system on alert. Enough to keep the noise on. Not because you're broken. Because you learned. Your nervous system learned that food was something to be managed, monitored, earned, or controlled. And a nervous system that has learned that cannot simply be talked out of it. And that brings us to the question almost everyone reaches eventually. Why can't I just stop thinking about it? There is a well-documented phenomenon in psychology called the rebound effect. The short version. The more you try not to think about something, the more that thing occupies your thinking. The classic experiment, try not to think about a white bear. You cannot do it. The suppression effort produces the thought. This is part of what makes food noise so exhausting. The instinct, the completely logical, understandable instinct, is to is to try to control the thoughts, to redirect, to distract, to scold yourself into thinking about something else. And every attempt feeds it. Not because you are doing it wrong, because thought suppression is the wrong tool for this particular problem. Food noise is not a thought problem. This is the reframe that almost no content in this space offers. It feels like a thought problem. It lives in the mind, but it is generated by the nervous system as a response to a perceived signal. And you cannot think-stop a signal. You cannot outthink your own survival system. The approach that works is not suppression. It is understanding what the signal is actually saying and addressing that. The signal, in most cases, is some version of scarcity. Not enough, not allowed, not safe. And the system will keep broadcasting that signal for as long as it believes it's true. Here is the part that is hardest to hear, and the most important. The shame. The "why can't I just stop thinking about this" does not turn the signal down. The shame reinforces the scarcity message. Because shame around food is itself a restriction signal. It says, this is not safe. This is not allowed. You have failed again. And the system responds by turning the volume up. So the reason your brain won't quiet down is not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because every tool you have been given, restriction, shame, suppression, starting over, happens to be exactly the kind of input that tells the nervous system to keep the noise running. The pattern makes sense, not because it is working, it stopped working a long time ago, but because your nervous system is doing exactly what it learned to do. If this is landing, if having the mechanism named is doing something, there is a resource in the description that was built for exactly this moment. It's a 21-day guided journal called the Food Noise Journal. Not a meal plan, not a tracking system, the opposite of that. It's a way to begin understanding the signal beneath the noise, one prompt at a time, privately, without pressure. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. So what does turn it down? The honest answer is, not one thing, not quickly, not in a straight line. The nervous system is slow to change. The patterns are old, but the direction is clear, and it is the opposite of what most people have been doing. The first shift is not behavioral, it's conceptual. It is the move from "I need to control what I'm thinking" to "I need to understand what my system is responding to." From management to curiosity, not performing curiosity, real curiosity. What is the noise actually pointing at right now? Is it scarcity? Is it a rule? Is it an emotion that has no other exit? The second shift, and this is the one that feels impossible and is actually the most important, is the gradual removal of the signals that tell the nervous system it is in a scarcity state. This does not mean eating everything. It means, slowly, carefully, beginning to dismantle the rules that are generating the threat signal in the first place. Not all at once. Not overnight. One meal at a time, one moment at a time. Not one diet at a time. The third shift is the hardest to describe, but the most recognizable once it starts. The noise begins to lose urgency. Not because food becomes unimportant, but because the nervous system slowly stops treating it as a threat. When the scarcity signal quiets, even partially, even intermittently, the cognitive bandwidth that has been occupied by food noise becomes available for other things. That is not a small thing. That is, for many people, the first experience they've had in years of actually being present at the table. You do not have to get there tonight. You do not have to get there this week, but you now have what you did not have before this video. A name, a mechanism, and the understanding that what you have been trying was not failing because you were failing. It was failing because it was designed to. If you want to take what this opened somewhere specific, the journal in the description is the next step. 21 days of prompts designed to help you understand the signal, not suppress it. Link in the description and in the pinned comment whenever you're ready. What does food noise actually look like in your day? When does it get loudest? And when did you first realize it wasn't just about being hungry? What you carried into this video was an experience that had been running, unnamed, underneath everything. The constant hum, the mental math, the thoughts that arrived before you invited them and stayed longer than you wanted. And you carried it the way most people carry it. Privately, and with the quiet belief that it said something about who you are. It doesn't. Food noise is a signal generated by a nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. It is not evidence of weakness. It is not evidence of broken self-control. It is evidence that your brain learned, somewhere along the way, that food was something to be managed rather than something to be eaten, and it has been protecting you according to that learning ever since. Not because you're broken, because you learned. And what was learned can, with the right approach and enough time, be unlearned. Not through force, not through restriction, not through shame, through understanding, which is the only thing that actually gives the nervous system permission to stop running the alert. The noise does not disappear tonight. That is an honest thing to say, and this channel does not deal in promises that dissolve by morning. But something genuinely shifted in the last several minutes. You have language now, you have the mechanism. You understand why the tools you were given couldn't work. Not because you couldn't use them, but because they were the wrong tools for this particular signal. That is not a small thing to carry out of a video. That is the beginning of something that actually has a different destination. Food noise is not a thought problem. It is a signal. And signals have sources. You now know where to look.